Okay, so you're going to see if Miss Tess delimits was speeding. Okay, so remember what the mean value theorem says. The mean value theorem, mean means average. So it says that the average rate of change is going to equal the instantaneous rate of change somewhere. Okay, if you are confused, look at SpongeBob, right? The slope of the tangent line equals the slope of the secant line somewhere. And on the back, it kind of explains it. It has to be continuous and differentiable. We're moving a straight line here, so we're good. So we will, first of all, translate this information to coordinates. So the first thing I did was I said, hey, well, what are my variables, right? I have X and a Y, and whoops, I need to turn my pen. So X comma Y, X is going to be my independent variable, and Y is always the dependent. Thank you. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. So I need to also decide, hey, well, what is my independent variable versus my dependent? So I have two things here. I have distance and time. Which one is going to be independent? Which is independent, my X? Time, right? Everything depends on time. So my distance depends on my time. So the first thing I would kind of orient myself to is it's going to be time, comma, distance. Okay? Independent, comma, dependent. So then I'm going to make my coordinates. So Ms. Tess delimits was driving on I-83 and in a 55-mile-per-hour zone past the first cop car. Then 5 minutes later, 6 miles down the road. Okay, so my initial starting is going to be at 0 time, 0 distance, right? That's my start. Yeah. My end is going to be at, well, think about what your units are though. What units am I using for time? Miles per hour. Yeah, well, if I'm using miles per hour, then I have to do hours, right? So I can't just say 6 minutes, right? Or I'm sorry, 5 minutes. I can't say 5 minutes. I have to say, convert it 5 minutes out of 60, right? Minutes in an hour. It's going to be 1/12 of an hour. Does that make sense? So that's going to be my first X value there, the 1/12 with 6 miles, right? 6 miles down the road, 5 minutes later. So in 1/12 of an hour, 6 miles down the road. So these are my coordinates here. I start here and I end here. And it says, well, she checked her speedometer and she registered 55. So she thought she was good. But then the police officer pulled her over and said, hey, I have Miss Alexander for calculus, so you can't get away with this, right? Yeah, totally. Yeah, yes, right. Anybody going to become a cop in here? Be like, well, Miss Alexander says. Okay, so the mean value theorem means I'm going to first find the slope of the secant line of those two coordinates. So the slope of the secant, f of b minus f of a over b minus a. It's like the difference in y's over difference in x's, right? Think of it as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to plug in 6 minus 0, right? I'm subtracting these two first. All over my x's, 1/12 minus 0. So 6 over 1/12 becomes reciprocal. 6 times 12 is 72. How do I know what my units are? What are my units at the top? What did I subtract? Miles, right? And then units at the bottom are hours, right? So this is miles per hour. Yeah, she was, right? And she thought she was safe. Can't get away from calculus. Test and delimit. Test and delimit. Okay. So the next bit is, hey, what's her fine going to be? So this is A, her top speed. The next one is the police officer told Miss Tess limits that her basic fine was $102 plus, did you guys know this? I actually looked this up. I try to get accurate information for you guys. Pennsylvania's current required fine is $2 for each mile per over the speed limit. So I would say this is, let's see, $102. So the total is going to be, well, 102 plus $2 times the number of miles per hour over. Okay, well, let's first calculate how many miles per hour was she over the speed limit. 72 minus 55 is 17 miles per hour over. But take a look at this wording. It says for what? I'm just finding the difference, like how much she was over. So then $2 for each mile per hour over the speed limit in excess of 5 miles per hour. Yes. Yeah. So then she gets a grace. So minus the 5 miles per hour grace, which is technically she's going to be charged for 12 miles per hour. Okay. So what's that going to be? $102 plus 2 times 12 will be 102 plus 24 is $126. Woo woo. It's a lot of money, right? Okay. That's it. Does that make some sense? Remembering what we did last week? Okay. All right. So, hey, today, your task is, we're going to be chill here. We're just going to complete a worksheet today. Sound good?